Perfect, good. We'll get a few of those throws. So essentially what I'm just doing here is I'm videoing him going through the throw, and then we'll actually get some live feedback here on what it is that he can improve on. Perfect. Good, and let's get 1-2 from like his front side, so over by those chairs over there. All right, cool. You know, first thing that I would say, you are getting the ball a little bit back behind your head when you're actually throwing the ball here. So your first movement is to kind of bring that ball straight backwards like this. You know, see how that ball's traveling that way instead of at the beginning. What you want to start to have it do is first have some trajectory backwards. Typically, you can go straight up, but if you go straight up, then you really have to start firing your elbow through very, very quickly. So what happens is that because your arm gets so far back without any elbow movement, now what's going to happen is when you come through, you're going to end up having to come that way and around, and so you're going to release the ball with your elbow going more that way instead of being able to come straight forward and through. It also makes it so now your upper body ends up leaning a little bit more over to the side as you're finishing through the actual throw, rather than generating force out of the lower body. And the reason that it looks like you're not getting as much force out of the lower body is just because of the timing of when you create rotation out of that back leg. So just to give you a comparison, let me real quick get to this Tom Brady throw. You know, there's this bend and the heel kind of facing straight up, where when you look at yours here, we'll go from the other side. I think this one was the good angle here, where it's just like a pure extension, right? You're just pushing this way. You're not generating any rotational force. So what you should focus on here when you're first getting going, see with this front leg, as your front leg is getting out in front of you, see how he's twisting that back leg and getting that back hip to start to internally rotate or move. You're just going and just kind of pushing off and not getting any rotation there. It's great that you're getting a push off. There's a lot of quarterbacks that I just need to work the push off and getting your momentum to go forward, but you really want to get the push off with the rotation, and that will then make it so then as you follow through, you'll be able to actually get, you know, more out of your actual hips, because right now you're really not rotating through the spine. See how you're just kind of leaning over through the spine there instead of actually generating rotation. Also keep that front arm close to your chest, all right, when you're actually throwing. Or at a little bit earlier on. So right here, during this stage, keep your hand a little bit close to your chest, because you want to be creating what's called hip and shoulder disassociation. So you want this hip to be opening up, and you want that shoulder to kind of be staying closed, so then you can start to create a stretch within your body there. I know we're going over a few different things right now, you know, but that will also help you in generating more rotation through your hips. That's going to be, you know, the main thing that I'm seeing right now is that you're just not generating rotation through your hips and through your lower core, and that's what's making it so you're not able to get as much out of your lower body and putting a lot more pressure on your upper body in order to throw the ball.
Okay.
All right, does it make sense? All right, now I'll go ahead and film for you here. Yeah, there you go, that's better. Keep that front arm closed. So even when you're going here, because you take a pretty long stride, right, you're going to want to start to generate some rotation off that back leg a little bit sooner, right? Just happening a little bit too late, and when you're actually pushing off and getting that back leg to turn and get going, right? You're here, and once your foot gets down on the ground, now all your body weight, and you're just using a lot of momentum, you just see how your spine just shifts over to the side there, right? So you're not generating a lot of rotation, and that's just because you're not setting your hips up to generate all the rotation. It just ends up being getting that, you know, the earlier you can like pivot off that back leg and get that leg to start to twist around, the better you're going to be able to improve the throw, or the sooner you're going to be able to make improvements there in the throw. All right, so you just really want to start to, as soon as you, you know, get that arm going back, you want to start to get those hips to rotate. I still think you can maybe do a better job of getting the ball going back a little bit further, so then you can give yourself some more space to get that elbow coming straight forward and through. But I would also say, So there's some upper body stuff that you can work on. So there's some arm stuff you can work on. But the bigger connection that you're going to be able to make here is going to be really starting to get those hips to come all the way through and initiate them earlier on. Right? You did a better job on this one. That's like your best one right there, where you really started to get those hips going. And then once you start getting those hips going, then you'll start feeling like, oh wow, my right arm is opening up a little bit earlier, which is why at the end you were like, oh yeah, I started feeling my right arm there. It's because you'll start to feel, oh yeah, that was the last one. You'll start to feel that your hips are really leading the way and need to be leading the way. And if you open up your arm too early, then it impacts how much force you're able to create out of your lower core and lower body.
Okay.
All right.
So when I'm loading the ball, that's when I should start to pivot that left foot
Yep.
during the load. Okay.
Yep, and maybe if you can, bring the ball back a little bit further away from your body when you initiate the loading motion.
Okay. Should I go again?
Yeah. There you go. Really get that back leg twisting, get that back leg twisting. There you go. That was really good. So see here how you're going, you're stepping, and you're doing, I think you're doing a better job in generating that force through the hips. Now I'd just say keeping that front arm maybe even like right on your chest, like keeping that front elbow a little bit lower, keeping that front arm on your chest, and then just maintaining a little bit more of an upright position as you're throwing, because you can still see how you end up leaning a little bit here, right?
Yeah, I'm falling off to the right.
Yep, exactly. So instead of, because you're getting more out of the hips, so instead of leaning off to the side so much, just as you're coming through, if you keep this front hand a little bit closer to your chest and keep that elbow a little bit closer to your chest, it'll make it so now you end up, you'll be able to rotate through more in the spine rather than leaning, side bending over the spine. And just kind of feel yourself side bending like that, and instead of leaning, try to rotate, right? Try to go and rotate through and really, throw like the rib cage at the target. Awesome. All right, that's good. We're good with that, yeah. Because those are some things that we can work on here. How'd those feel?
Those felt a lot better. I felt like I was getting it. I feel like I was on top of the ball more.
Good.
If that makes sense.
Good. So you're starting to get feel a little bit more rotation. So you feel yourself getting better with that.
Yeah, definitely from the first rep to that one, I felt less stress on my arm and more.
That's good. So what we're seeing here now is as you're coming through, you could really see how when you initially load, what ends up happening is that you end up really bringing that ball really far back that way. Yeah. And, I talk about that a good amount where, when you load, you don't want to get the ball too far here. You really want to keep everything a little bit more in like that type of a line, that type of a plane. And you end up getting it and releasing it there. You end up finishing it with it in a good spot, like basically right in the middle, which is great. But it just how you end up having to get there, I think also makes it so you end up having to lean over a good amount. So really trying to get a concentration on from here, keeping everything in fairly, that type of plane, not letting it get too far back that way, right? You don't need to necessarily go, a ton back here. I can tell you're trying to get rid of the ball pretty quick and don't want to necessarily go back too much. But what ends up happening is if you go this way too far, now that's going to really throw off how your body moves. Because, right, you could tell what ends up happening is that in order for your elbow to come through, you end up having to bend over with your spine and your body to that side, right? So you're doing a better job of generating more force through your hips, but you're still not getting 100% out of the actual throw just because of how you ended up loading. I'm a big proponent of how you end up going through the load and how you go through the finish are two very, very important things that give us a lot of great information of how the throw is going to end up, looking. So if you're off balance or if you don't have a nice finish at the end, then we know that it's probably not going to be as good of a throw. And also if you load in a way that throws your body off and throws your momentum off, then the chances and likelihood of you having a good throw are also a little bit limited. So, in both ways.
So how do I get the ball into that zone? Just like bring it back further?
Yeah, or just get your elbow to come through sooner, right? So it could either be a hand thing or it could be an elbow thing. You have two different ways. I mean, obviously, this is going to be something that is more of a habit for you, Ryan. So it's not going to be something that's going to be like as easy to just say, oh, okay, get it, I'm going to go back. But if you can maybe just think about just bringing the ball back a little bit more, or again, just bringing that elbow through sooner and see and feel how that feels like.
Okay.
All right, let's do a few of them like that if we can. Maybe get in the same angle, that'd be great. That had a lot more power on it. Good. It's still getting back behind you a little bit, so think about getting the ball back furthermore. Get your elbow through sooner. Yeah, just a little bit. Don't need to go too far. There we go. That was interesting. Let's go one more. So it looks like what ended up happening here is on this one, you ended up leaning a little bit more over to the side a little bit earlier, where this one, you used a little bit more just pure elbow to get the ball coming through. So you're not leaning over to the side as much, you're more coming forward as you're actually finishing the throw from one compared to the other. So, big thing that is continually happening though, and I think one of the big things that we could really work on with you, and there's some drills that we could do to make it so, you could just go and stand up against like a wall, or, I'll hold like a dowel back behind people to just make it so they could feel when they're loading if they're hitting a dowel or a stick or something like that, what that feels like, so they know that the ball is getting too far back that way. Because that's going to end up being a huge improvement that you're going to be able to make, Ryan, in terms of your overall ability to throw the ball further and also get the ball out of your hand quicker. Is going to be just the trajectory of how you're loading and bringing that ball back that way, right? Because, it's a small thing, but it seems like that's going to be your biggest area that you can improve on. And also making it so, you'll take a lot more off of your shoulder. I think you're already starting to feel that a little bit just by kind of concentrating on it. But it's going to end up being, and what I would recommend is just going and making the actual change of when you load more on that plane, bring the ball back like that, this way, and then drive your elbow forward and through, rather than getting too far back that way with the ball. Because by the ball getting so far back that way, it's just really throwing off how your overall momentum is during the actual throw.
Okay.
All right. That was better. I'll go one more. Good. That's good. Really working on that position right there is going to be, a big one to me in helping you out. Like, it seems like where your throw is kind of similar to is like the Dan Marino type of throw. But I would just say that the difference in what, Dan Marino does is that he's really quick in driving his elbow forward and through, rather than, because you lift it up really quick like that there. But what he does is that once he's in this position, he's really fast to get that elbow coming forward, right? Where for you let that ball get all the way back here, right? So you're creating a lot of stretch and you're putting a lot of pressure on that front part of the shoulder. And so it's not a huge surprise that you end up having some labor room issues just because of how much pressure you're putting on your shoulder right there. And then from there, you end up driving the elbow forward and through. And, you're a big kid. You do use your momentum, to be able to get you across the body like that and you know, throw, but you're really maximizing your body in terms of how well you could use it currently in the technique that you're going through with your arm, right? So we went over some of the key things that will be important for, you know, your lower body to start to implement in order to throw with more rotation and throw the ball better. But part of the thing that's happening is that you're setting yourself up to not be able to generate as much rotation because your arm's coming back so far here. So now just naturally what has to be the next big thing is that your spine has to lean over to the side in order to make it so you have enough space to get that elbow forward and through. So now you're not going to be able to get as much rotation through the spine area. So the first thing that we got to be able to correct is really ends up being the load. And then once you can get the load correct, now you'll be able to start to generate more force through the spine and through like the mid body. But you know, making it so you're low, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, any huge changes. It just wants to be not getting so far back here is going to be the big thing. You know, like you want to get an external rotation in this position, right? When you're here, having that external rotation is great. That's what, you know, all the great guys have, is once they start driving the elbow through. The issue is with you is you really don't have much of an elbow drive. You have more of just like a side bend of the spine. Your elbow comes through a little bit, but you load your shoulders so much here that now you just kind of turn your body to the side, elbow comes through a little bit, and then you throw from that position rather than, you know, loading back and then really firing through with the elbow and getting rotation through the spine and rotation through the legs and rotation through, you know, the lower body. So there's a bit of a difference in, you know, where your force and your torque's coming from, again, because of the position through the load.
Okay.
All right.
I'm just gonna screenshot that there. Awesome.
Yeah, how'd you like it?
Oh, it's great. I learned a lot in that short amount of time, and just even with just getting the ball back, I was split second, just screwing me up.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to see the film right away too, right? That's what I really wanted to be able to show everybody.
So yeah, you can go and then correct it the next time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a new thing I'm going to start doing. I might even start doing you know, group sessions through this and start using that as a way to make it so I can, you know, connect with more guys and you know, have more quarterbacks involved.